Hello, my friend. What if emotional eating is not a lack of discipline at all? That may sound strange because most women struggle with emotional eating, have spent years blaming themselves for it. They tell themselves that they should know better. They should have more willpower and discipline, more inner strength, that they shouldn't be standing in front of the fridge at 9 p.m. looking for something sweet after a long and exhausting day. And because they believe that emotional eating is a character flaw, they often add another layer of guilt on top of the original struggle, which means that not only are they overwhelmed, exhausted, lonely, stressed, frustrated, or hurt, but now they're also disappointed in themselves for eating. Emotional eating actually makes sense. What if your behavior around foods is not evidence that there is something wrong with you, but evidence that your system has been trying to help you all along? You see, one of the things I have learned after many years of working with women is that human beings rarely do things for no reason. Well, probably not at all. There must always be kind of a reason behind everything we do. We may not always understand the reason immediately, but there is usually a reason, mostly unconscious though. The woman who checks her phone every 5 minutes is not crazy, although she looks like crazy. The woman who can't stop working is not necessarily addicted to work, and the woman who reaches for chocolate after a difficult day is not necessarily lacking discipline. We shouldn't judge others, nor should we judge ourselves. Very often there is something deeper happening underneath the behavior, any behavior. Now, let's imagine a typical day. You wake up tired because you didn't sleep particularly well. You rush through your morning because there are people depending on you. You spend the day solving problems, meeting obligations, helping family members, taking care of responsibilities, and trying to keep everything together. Perhaps you deal with difficult clients. Perhaps you deal with a demanding boss. Perhaps you're caring for children, elderly parents, a partner, or everybody at once. Throughout the day, little pieces of your energy get used up. Your patience gets used up. Your emotional reserves get used up. Your ability to cope gets used up. Your motivation, your discipline, and your willpower get very quickly used up. And most of all, your inner stability gets used up. And then finally, late in the evening, when the world becomes quiet, you can finally breathe out. Nobody needs anything from you anymore. You find yourself standing in front of the pantry, looking for something that feeds you, something sweet. Now, here's the question. Is that a food problem or is it an exhaustion problem? Because if your emotional tank has been running on empty all day long, it makes perfect sense that your system would look for something that provides comfort, pleasure, relief, or even a brief feeling of reward. In fact, I would argue that it would be stranger if your system didn't try to help you somehow. Now, does that mean food is the ideal solution? Not necessarily, but that doesn't make the behavior stupid. It makes it understandable, even logical. And understanding is where real change begins. Because when we label ourselves as weak, lazy, or lacking discipline, we stop being open for better answers. We stop asking questions. We stop exploring what is really going on. Instead, we simply react and attack ourselves and make ourselves feel guilty. That rarely leads to anywhere helpful. What I often notice is that women who struggle with emotional eating are actually carrying a great deal emotionally. Maybe you're a caregiver, a people pleaser, Maybe you have learned to take care of else's needs before your own. Maybe you are under constant pressure. Maybe you feel unseen, unsupported, or overwhelmed. And when food enters the picture, it often becomes one of the few moments of comfort and quiet available to you. Just think about that for a moment. Food doesn't judge you. Food doesn't criticize you. Food doesn't ask you for anything. Food simply provides a moment experience of relief. Now, of course, that relief doesn't last very long, regardless of how justified the desire for relief and the quiet moment with yourself is. Nevertheless, it's not a reason to judge yourself, to criticize yourself. Now, sadly, emotional eating has been demonized by the diet industry without questioning what might really be behind it. That's why emotional eating becomes frustrating, although it should serve you in that moment. And the original problem remains. The stress remains, the exhaustion remains. And so the cycle repeats. But what I want you to understand today, my friend, is that the cycle itself makes sense. It's not random. It's not evidence that you are failing. It's evidence that your system is trying to meet a need. Now, the real question is what need? Hmm. Because once we become curious about the need, new options and choices come up. Maybe the need is rest. Maybe it's support. Maybe connection. Maybe comfort. Maybe the need is safety. Permission to stop carrying the world for a little while. Whatever your answer may be, it's usually far more interesting and important than the food itself. Forget about the food. Just recognize what's inside yourself. And then it becomes much less a problem than you may have thought food was. And that's why simply focusing on food most of the time doesn't solve the problem at all. You can remove the chocolate, you can remove the cookies, the ice cream, but if the underlying need remains, your system will continue searching for a way of relief, for a way to meet it. And if you ignore those inner cues, there will come the day when something inside you bursts and suddenly you find yourself gobbling down an entire 1 liter ice cream box. Or you get exhausted and burn out or experience a nervous breakdown. That's another thing the diet industry is totally wrong about. They more see your emotional eating as a problem and the eating of the equation of emotional eating. And the more it becomes a problem and it keeps growing from year to year. And that's why so many women find themselves trapped in endless battles with food. They just see it as a problem and don't understand what's behind or beneath it, what aggravates the problem even more. It keeps you in a constant diet and guilt mode. Diets are trying to solve a symptom, while the real issue quietly remains in the background. Now, I'm not suggesting that every instance of emotional eating is caused by the same thing. Every woman is different. Every story is different. Every day is different. Every life is different. But what I'm suggesting is that emotional eating is often much more logical than it appears on the surface. And that's worth giving a closer look. And when we begin viewing it through that lens, something beautiful can happen. The shame begins to soften, the self criticism begins to soften, and you begin to open your mind for different solutions or answers. Instead of asking, what's wrong with me? You begin asking, what is my system trying to tell me? those are very different questions. One creates judgment and guilt, the other creates understanding and a solution. One keeps you stuck forever, the other opens the door to change. So, if emotional eating has been part of your life, I want you to know that you're not broken. There is nothing wrong with you. You're simply a human being whose system has been trying to help you in the best way it currently knows how. And perhaps the next step is not fighting that system even harder. Perhaps the next step is understanding it. If this conversation resonates with you, I would love to invite you into our free Women Beyond Weight community, where women can come together to explore a kinder, more compassionate, and ultimately more effective path toward lasting weight freedom. And if emotional eating has been a problem for you, this is the right place for you to be. The link is below and I hope to see you there. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Angela Buri. Take care. Happy slimming. Bye bye.